The Independent Electoral Commission is joining forces with Google, Meta, TikTok and Media Monitoring Africa. It's in a bid to curb disinformation on social media. It's ahead of next year's elections, which are likely to be the most contested since the dawn of democracy. We're joined by Media Monitoring Africa Director William Bird. William, not only the most contested election, but also a new election in many sense, because we're going to have a different way of voting than we've ever had before.
Yeah, the thing with disinformation is it tends to arise precisely when tensions are high, when there's a period of uncertainty, and you're going to have all of that wrapped into a gift wrap present for those who are going to try and disinform and undermine our democratic state. So I think there's no doubt that we can expect a lot of people to be up to no good. And certainly, that the item just before this, we're talking about the July looting there. We saw the impact that social media had to play. We've seen in France, just recently, the president saying that they may look at disabling certain social media platforms in the lead up to, kinds of protests. So these things are not unique to us, but certainly the threats are very clear and very real.
And William, it's interesting because given perhaps the lessons that have been learned over a number of election cycles, I would say in the last 5 to sort of 7 years, not just in South Africa, but I think globally, it's now incumbent not just on bodies that run elections, but I would also say on government and civil society to take active steps in protecting elections.
Well, I mean, this is why this is one of the things that really makes this framework of cooperation that's been signed really important, precisely because it is a recognition of exactly what you're saying. You need people with different levels of expertise and different role players to come together and say, we're going to do whatever we can to try and combat this very dangerous thing that has the potential to undermine the freeness and fairness of our elections. And to be clear, if you do that, then you don't have a democratic state. So there's, everything really is at stake in these coming elections. And certainly the lessons that have been learned are that the best and only way you can do these things is to come together and work together and try and make sure that you can mitigate the harms as and when bad actors start to do things. And it's to certainly the IEC's credit and certainly to the platform's credit that they've recognized this and that they want to say that they also understand the importance of our elections and they'll act to help prevent disinformation from undermining our elections.
William, this is now where things become a bit muddy, right? Especially in the context of election and what is a very polarized political environment. What exactly then, what is the test that we use to distinguish disinformation from misinformation and just from freedom of speech that perhaps has just taken things a bit too far?
Yeah, that's a lovely question. So I think the first thing is that the system that we've got in place has been running for the last 4 years now, and that system has been operational. It's independent of governments. It's independent of any other interfering sources because effectively each complaint that gets viewed by a minimum of 4 people before you have any kind of outcome determined. And the basis for that outcome is on the basis of determining whether the information is patently false, whether it's likely to cause harm, and then the action that is taken from that is that the IEC is empowered to say we need this to be investigated. They ask the platforms to then review it. So any kind of content that comes in, while it'll be reviewed swiftly and run through the system in a matter of hours, it's not something that willy-nilly will just be removed. So the fear of the censorship of things and of people being censored just because they express a strong or different opinion simply is unfounded. It's been in the IEC's code of conduct since 1994 that there's this clause that says that you can't spread false information. So this isn't something new. There's no new law that the IEC is drawing on. We're working within our existing framework and very, very cognizant of the rights that we have and very protective of them. So, it is about finding those actors and those instances where there is a very clear effort to undermine our democracy and disinform people. We've seen a number of examples of that, and they can range from innocent or seemingly innocent things about saying you have to take your own pen because the IEC isn't going to provide them with you in case you give them COVID at the time. That was in 2021. Or they may say things like we've changed the election date, things that may seem slightly innocuous but have potential to stop someone from voting.
William, when we take a look at some of the lessons also learned over a period of time, I think there's a lot to be said about how some of those that are drivers of disinformation on online platforms actually operate. There's been research done into some of these farms, as they call it, these content farms that will, set up fake accounts and use that to push information. Of course, what happens is that the ordinary public picks up on that, and then it just, drives the interactions all the way up, as it were. What do you think can be done in the context of an election to actually target those producers of false content and ensure that those operations ultimately are the ones that are shut down, and how difficult is it to track them?
So, this is really the benefit of the system that we're doing, and it is quite unique, because someone would see something on any one of the platforms that would get reported. The moment that gets reported into Real 411, the IEC is alerted that there's something. If we see that, and it runs through, let's assume it's disinformation, it goes to the platform. They then able to look and see, are there other people that are doing that? At the same time, we'll be working with other experts like the DFR labs to help analyze and see, are there networks that are spreading this, and are they working across different platforms? So the advantage is that, unlike in an election in the States where, for example, you may see something and report it, the electoral body wouldn't know that you've reported it because it doesn't go to them. The electoral body wouldn't know to alert other social media platforms because they don't have a broad agreement. So what we're doing in this is trying to really make sure that as and when things occur, we see them, the different organizations are alerted, and then the companies that have the real power to be able to go behind the scenes and investigate and take specific action have an even faster alert system to say, look, we've seen this has been reported, we need to do something about it, and we can act now.
It sounds to me that where we are then, William, in terms of this memorandum of understanding is actually quite groundbreaking. Is it a game changer?
Well, we have to hope so. It depends really on the commitment that comes through and hoping that everyone plays their part. It's not just those entities. It is very much about the public. Elections, we forget elections. We think are about political parties, but they aren't. They're about the people of South Africa. This is about the people of South Africa saying this is our democracy. If we see something dodgy and we act on it and work with all of those involved, then we can actually mitigate the impact of disinformation. And if you can stop it quickly enough, the harm that it causes it really can be quite minimal. So let's hope that we're going to continue. The IEC is an incredibly proud record of hosting free and fair, incredible elections since our democracy, and I think that we have to hope that with these kinds of partnerships and these initiatives that we can continue to do that in 2024.
William Bird is the Director of Media Monitoring Africa.